Hello, class, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into one of nature's most amazing stories, how plants, which are stuck in one spot, manage to create new life and fill our entire world with green. So let's start with a big question. Think about it. Plants are literally everywhere. But how do they make sure they'll still be around for your children and their children? Well, the answer is all part of a plant's single most important mission. To figure that out, we need to understand this one big mission. It all comes down to a really powerful process that every single living thing on this planet has to do to survive as a species. And that process is called reproduction. It's how all living things, from the tiniest ant to the biggest iroko tree, create offspring. You can think of it like this. It's passing on the family blueprint, all the instructions for how to grow and what to be to the next generation. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Plants are super clever. They don't just have one way to get this done. Nope, they have two main strategies. Two totally different ways to carry out this mission of making new life. So, a plant can either make a perfect copy of itself, kind of like using a photocopy machine, with just one parent. We call that asexual reproduction. Or it can team up with another plant, combine their genetic information, and create a brand new, unique offspring. And that one is sexual reproduction. This table really breaks it down for us. You see, asexual reproduction is fast, it's easy, you don't need to find a partner. But the downside is that the new plant is an identical clone, so there's no variety. Sexual reproduction, on the other hand, takes a bit more effort. But by mixing genes, it creates totally unique offspring. And that variety is so important. It helps the whole species adapt to challenges like diseases or a change in the weather, making them way stronger over time. And you know what? You might be surprised to hear that you already know a lot about asexual reproduction. I bet you've even seen it happening, especially if you've ever been near a farm right here in Nigeria. Exactly. When a farmer takes a cutting from a cassava stem and plants it, or when they put a piece of ginger in the ground, they're using asexual reproduction. That little piece of the parent plant already has everything it needs to grow into a whole new plant. And that new plant is a perfect clone of the original. It's a natural and really smart way for plants to copy themselves. Okay, so let's move on to the other method, sexual reproduction. To really get this, we need to take a tour inside the plant's, let's call it reproduction headquarters, which, for so many plants, is the beautiful flower. And we're going to use a flower I'm sure you all know very well, the hibiscus. It's perfect because it has all the parts we need to see nice and clearly. All right, let's take a closer look inside. Okay, first let's check out the male parts of the flower. When you put all the male parts together, we call that the stamen. So the stamen has two main parts. Right at the top, you have the anther. You can just think of that as the pollen factory. This is where all the tiny grains of pollen get made. And that factory is held up by a long stalk called the filament. The stamen's whole job is just to make the pollen and hold it up high for delivery. All right, now let's find the female parts. They're usually right in the very center of the flower. This whole structure is called the pistil, though sometimes you'll hear it called the carpel too. So, the pistil has three key sections. Way up at the top is the stigma, And it's usually kind of sticky. It's basically the perfect landing pad for any incoming pollen. Below that is the style, which is a tube that connects the stigma all the way down to the most important part, the ovary. And inside the ovary are the ovules. Those are the potential seeds, just waiting for that pollen to arrive. But of course, the stamen and the pistil can't do their jobs all alone. They need some very important helpers. The beautiful, bright petals, they're not just there to look pretty. They are like big, colorful advertisements shouting, "Hey bees, hey butterflies, come get some sweet food over here." And then at the very bottom, you have the sepals. These little green leaves act like bodyguards, protecting the delicate flower when it's still just a fragile little bud. Okay, so now that we've met all the parts, let's see how they all work together as a team. It's time for the most crucial part of the whole mission, getting that pollen from the male parts over to the female parts. And this whole process is called pollination. You can really just think of it as a special delivery service. It's that critical step of moving the pollen from the anther, where it's made, all the way over to that sticky stigma where it needs to be received. And this delivery can happen in one of two ways. You can have self-pollination, where the delivery stays within the family. The pollen just moves from the anther to the stigma of the very same plant. But then you have cross-pollination, where the delivery goes to a neighbor. The pollen actually travels from one plant to a totally different plant. And this is the one that really mixes up the genes and creates those stronger, more diverse new plants. So how does the pollen make that trip? It needs a delivery driver. Now the wind can help, but the absolute best delivery drivers are animals, especially bees. So here's how the mission goes down. A bee visits a flower to drink its sweet nectar. While it's there, pollen from the anther sticks all over its fuzzy little body. Then, when the bee flies to the next flower, some of that pollen rubs off onto the new flower's sticky stigma. And just like that, mission accomplished. The delivery is complete. So what happens after that successful delivery? Well, that's when fertilization can happen. A tiny tube actually grows from the pollen grain all the way down to the ovary and joins with an ovule. That combination is the spark of new life. After that, the magic happens. The ovary starts to swell and ripen, and it transforms into a fruit with the brand new seeds protected safely inside. So, I'll leave you with a final thought. The next time you're eating a sweet mango, or a juicy orange, or even a tomato, just remember, you're eating a ripened flower ovary. Every single fruit started its life as part of a flower, working to complete its mission to create the next generation. Pretty amazing when you think about it, isn't it?